Okay, welcome back from lunch. Next we have Rudá from Brazil, and he will talk about his work for Berlin startup and what they did to implement microservices with Pyramid, CCA, Angular, and AWS. Please have a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Well, today I'm going to talk about this amazing experience I had in the last year in this company in Berlin. I moved from Brazil a year ago to start on this new position, and I'm like really enjoy this time here in Europe, in Germany, and I would like to present this case of study to share this experience that I had. So, about me, I have the whole of software architecture at Briefy, my Twitter and my email. First, I want to give you a brief explanation about what's the company, what we do there, and what the process we had to create this solution. First of all, the most important thing that we have in the company is the team. It was really amazing time working together with wonderful people from different countries, sharing, learning, and really creating something from the ground, creating a new product, creating a business. So I'm really thankful to have this opportunity to work with these amazing people. And yeah, this is, I think, it was the most important thing at all in this process. The company had a simple but not easily to explain business model. We provide visual content for companies at scale. What does it mean? We receive orders from our customers. Usually the customer can input the orders, or he can import these orders in our system. These orders have information about the location of the shoot, the contact of the person we need to have to make it happen. Usually hotels, flats, restaurants, and so on. And our goal is to assign to a photographer nearby this location that to be able to understand the briefing we agreed with the customer, make it happen, and upload to our internal team, and then we are going to do quality assurance of these assets and deliver to the customer the final assets to them as soon as possible using SFTP, Google Drive, or custom APIs, for example, uploading the content. So, that's it. Seems to be simple, but the most important thing is visual content matter. That's why companies need good visual content. They need to improve their visuals to convert. So that's why more and more people are using services to booking hotels, to buy food, or to rent a car, and they need the pictures to know, using these online platforms, what they are going to receive in the end. Okay? The challenge in this process is, or was, and is still, but it's a new thing about not being only a digital agents, but being something else, being something that we can scale, that we can have an API, that we can have automated process of validating these assets and creating a workflow that everything can work in the way we expected, and we have the best process and the best delivery for our customer in the end, the best quality. And this process, I think the most interesting part was that we really had to learn a lot. We started with the company. When we start there, the company didn't have a tech department. So we have to not only build the solution, but also build the process together with the team. Build the process, creating this new process, discussing and really working together, not only coding, but also thinking the business, thinking the solution. And this was a great experience also. Okay. Now I'll give an overview of what we did in this time, what the solution we created. The most important thing as a base of our solution was we want to have an API-centric solution that will be grow and provide good data information for our internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. We, from the beginning, we decided that we want to have a microservice architecture, so to build a small process and to divide our problem in small parts and to be able to easily deploy and change things without blockers, without anything that can be prevent us to be fast, to be agile, to deliver the solution or the fix or the improvement. And the third thing was you want to have a messaging system based on events. So something happens, every time something happens in our system, we want to send an event, and this event will be fired to a coordination process that will take actions based on the events. And this will be not inside of the microservices. It will be like put together in just one service responsible to do this task. So if you need to change something, it will be just one location. And also to connecting this microservice, I'll explain better this in the next steps. Also, as a tech company and think about quality of what we want to deliver, we focus on quality of the code, reuse the code, so this, again, creating small packages and testing, and also having a nice DevOps process that we can monitor the process. You can work with containers or something that cluster and high availability. Okay. And what to choose as a tech stack, that's what we decided to use Python with Zope component architecture. It's for us, it was really important the way we wrote the code that you can customize later. So if you have a library that defines a component and one microservice needs to customize it, it will make it simple. We also using interfaces to fire events and then also to listen to these events and to take actions inside the process and to deliver the messages to the coordination process. We worked with Pyramid. We started with Pyramid 1.8. Now we have 1.9. We worked with in our database models with SQLAlchemy. We are using now the beta version 1.2 that have a huge improvement in performance because SQLAlchemy enable by default the cache of the compiling of the ORM, and we are using PostgreSQL. For the front end, we decided to use Angular. In the time we started with Angular 2, was really difficult in the first moment because it was exactly in the transition between Angular 1 and 2. So Angular was not stable. Angular 2, we have a lot of problems with dependence packages. So we learned a lot in this process. And we have to create our own framework of generic views, generic listings, and generic actions. So it was really a hard time, but a challenge, but at the same point we could learn a lot in this process. For the infrastructure, we start using Google Drive because it was the main storage for the images, and we start to move to S3. For the message system, we use SQS. And the thing that was really important for us, as a small team to manage the deploy process was to use Kubernetes and the platform service Deis, that's similar to Heroku. So it's a workflow I will explain better later. And as usual, GitHub, Travis, Elasticsearch with Logstash to centralize logins and Sentry to the front end to get errors and to manage the failures of the front end, and for the back end, New Relic, and Slack for notification. Okay. So let's start with the infrastructure to have an idea what we did. First of all, we decided to use from the beginning AWS. We work with 3 environments. So we have one development environment, stage environment, live environment. So in this, we had to create this infrastructure for each environment. We decided to put each environment in a different region. We create private network. That's the standard of having your private network. Then put your servers inside and have access only to Bastion and VPN. So you make it secure. You also put in the front Cloudflare to make sure you can have this high performance to deliver especially the front end and the images. And we use a lot of services from AWS, also RDS. We use Deis and this also the security groups, everything that we can help us to have the best security and at the same time the best performance. One of the great things that we did not use from the beginning, but we discovered in the last month, was this tool from Kubernetes, that KOps. I really recommend you to check this tool, Kubernetes Ops. That's a tool that you can easily create Kubernetes clusters with just one line command from Google or Azure or AWS. You just can say, okay, I want to create a Kubernetes cluster with one master in multiple availability zones and a number of nodes you want to put on the cluster. And in the end, solution will be something like that. You can have these different availability zones, and you're going to have a VPC created automatically, subnets, everything that needs to be done to create this infrastructure inside Amazon. So this also can be used to use software-defined network solutions that Kubernetes support, and yeah, it's really something easily to reproduce, to recreate your environment. You can also export the output. You can run the script, the command to directly create the infrastructure, or you can export to a CloudFormation template. That's a tool from Amazon that you can also, after use this file to create a new environment. Okay. Here, just a simple overview of how Kubernetes work. So we have Kubernetes has a REST API and a lot of services to manage authentication, logging, application deploy, and workload. So you just need to say, okay, run this container, and Kubernetes will take care of running multiple instances. If your instance crash, start again. If you want one of the nodes crash, the application will be starting another node available, so you don't have to care about these things. Outscaled, and also on top of this, we have Deis. The important thing about Deis is really make easy to work with Kubernetes. You just have a command to say, okay, I have this repository with a Docker file and a small change in we have a proc file also to say about the process that's going to running, and you say, okay, please, just deploy this doing git push, Deis, and the name of the branch. So if you want to deploy a different branch, you just change the command. So in the end, and in the back end, what's going to happen? This you go to the build phase. That if the container was not built before, you're going to build the container, and then start the application and do the blue-green process to put the application up, check if the application will be really running properly before do the changing between the releases. So the user will not notice the change at all if it's proper, if your application is properly configured. You just change the release and you control you can also do rollback if you want. You have the history of who did the deploy and how many releases you did, which version, and everything is controlled by Deis. So, and we have another tools also to help us in automation. We use Ansible to manage more security groups rules, creating databases on AWS, and creating database instances, and managing, installing some tools inside the nodes. So making sure we have always homogeneous environment in our service about the users that can access by SSH keys and things like that. About New Relic, this was from the beginning important thing in our process to put the New Relic configuration in all the applications, so we can know from the beginning in each environment what's going on. If we have errors, if you have, we can also trace, see performance issues and things like that. And we have automation about with these tools to send alerts on our Slack tech channel. So we also can be notified by email and by Slack what's going on. For example, if you have a high error level on applications or something happened wrong on the service also. So if you have like a performance issue, memory, disk, or something like that. Okay, now let's talk about code. We create in this year of work, we create a lot of code, and the most important, we create a shared base code that's really something you want to probably we are trying to make it open source because I think it can be really useful for other people. We create a package that we call common that we need to split it in the future, but this package manages all our code about events, so event class and interfaces, and also event workers, that the workers that you read message from the queue. Logging, we created from the ground a workflow library to manage our internal workflow process like we have in Plone, but specifically to work together with the models, the SQLAlchemy models, and we define base models in common and mixing classes to be used to compound different model types. We have this package that's Briefy that we use Pyramid to create REST APIs, so to make it easy to create the resources, validation, error handling, and some tools to work with Google Drive and S3. So just going to details, so Briefy Common. The workflow engine, I said, events, the base models, also with versioning and local hosts. We create a really a special way to define local hosts and to create dynamically these attributes in the models. We also have a cache tool because we detect that one of the most intense work that you have to do all the time. You make a request was to serialize the objects. So this was the performance bottleneck. So we created this, we're using Dogpile cache to automatically say, okay, every time you call this function to serialize, create a cache, and we can have a huge performance improvement. And the worker I told about reading the consuming message from SQL. Brief AWS, we have the base class to exposure models as API endpoints. So it was really just say, okay, this is my endpoint, this is my model class, and it's done. We don't have to write the collection post, collection get, put, delete. So everything was adjusted to automatically introspect in the model and be able, and also filters to reuse this generic view to create this resource. One important thing inside this, the REST methods, we file object lifecycle events. So, like we have in Plone, if when an object is created, when an object is changed, we file an event that will be sent to the queue and can be trigger actions that I will show later. And this included also the workflow. One thing that was really important for us that we have, for example, in Django, was to be able to create the automatic validation from the model also. Introspecting the model and creating the, I don't know if you use it to use Pyramid, but you have to define the columnar schema. So you use a library that does this work. We have to customize this library for our use. But this really helps us to not have to rewrite this information again. Brief AWS also has an important role in security and computing dynamic ACLs for our model, so we could define which users can read, write, and which situation, based also on the workflow status, and the filter that I said. Some productive tools we used together with this was a library to check style on our code, so to ensure we have really a standard about codes, and easily checking and help us to fix the failures and put this in our building process. Cookie cutter templates to make it easy to create new projects, to create new microservices using these templates. And some Docker images that we created to customize for our needs. About the services, what we have. The main services we created, Leica, that's the business process, the main operation process that does all the user visible workflow. We have choreographer, that's the routing that does the routing of the events. So all events from our microservices are dispatching to this one queue. And choreographer, all the time, read this queue, check the event, and decide, okay, when this event happens, I have to do something. I have to send an email. I have to post on Slack. We create also a JWT service to do authentication and create the JWT tokens. And we create a library to store our digital all information of our digital assets about the images. So in the end of the process, we could import this information to our library. Then we are going to be able to query and deliver the after to the customers. And Ms. Laura, one of the important things we discover during the work is how we can scale our operation process. And Ms. Laura, it was really a great idea about how we can validate and automate things in our workflow about checking image quality, checking size, number of images, everything we define in our process should be automatically checked, helping the QA team avoiding manual work for this kind of tasks. We also create some support services. We used image server handling, that's Tumblr, that's open source project. It's really a nice project we could check because it's a general purpose tool to resize images, to smart cropping images. You can apply filters and use also IA to automatic tagging and things like that. We have a tool for Slack, another tool to integrate with Mail, with Mandrill. We have we created a CMS for our website, so we use Plone to this, and we create a front end in Angular to connect to Plone using the REST API. We created a small CRM to have our internal hotel database, to contact hotels, to manage this information. We created a sitemap tool to help to build the sitemap from Plone to our front-end website. And we have a gateway and router for our API, also making sure you just point our requests to this router, and we can create policies and cache and things like that, and avoid access to our APIs that are not allowed. I will go now into details about Leica, just to give an idea of the process, how we connected from the initial briefing of the project, saying, okay, the customer want this kind of style, this kind of images from hotels or from restaurants, and how our process work. Mainly, we need to, for one order, we need to create one or more assignments to photographers. Usually should be one, but sometimes we have to cancel, we have to change the photographer, and then you can cancel the assignment and create a new one and keep the history. One assignment, when it's assigned to a photographer, we can also schedule this with the contact information to go there, to visit, to do the shoot, and in the end, after this, we move this assignment to QA, as I explained, with automatic validation, and to be able to be internally approved and then externally approved by the customer and delivered. And each time anything happens in this process, like changing status from received to scheduled to assigned to delivered to submitted, so we have a workflow to manage each step of this process, knowing exactly what's going on, being able to filter in the front end, being able to manage this, which thing is in which status, so making everything visible. And because this change goes to our central messaging routing, we can index things on BigQuery, logging, and dispatch messages on Slack, on send emails and things like that. So this tool, this product is composed of the front end, that's Angular 4, is composed of the API of Briefy Leica, and it's composed of some tasks that you have scheduled tasks to check the status and do something automatically. And for this solution, we have some important domain models we created. So all of these models were created using SQLAlchemy. So to connect the customer, define the projects, orders. One order can have one or more assignments. We also have information about the creative professionals, the users from the customer side, from our internal side. And just to have an idea of our internal workflow, our nodes, how the process was, like defining the workflow. We also created a small tool to create this graphic of the workflow from the code and put this in our documentation using Sphinx. So this is another thing that we could also maybe together with the workflow open source in the future. And it was really an intense process of understanding the process, defining the workflow, and discussions, and that was really amazing. In the end, the solution and how it really makes things manageable, creates a lot of data, a lot of history about what's going on, so you know what's going on all the time. We have control of what's going on in your process. And what does it mean in the end? Really, you have events, we have things happen all the time, and you can take actions, you can automate things, and this is really, really impressive. For example, we have Arianna. Arianna is one of our project managers. She assigned, for example, 120 times a photographer inside to an assignment, and we have the workflow history. And when this assignment happens, this event will be processed, and you can take the actions to send email, send Slack, and anything else. Also, when you validate a professional, and we have hopefully that's our finance manager, and she had the job to check the legal information from the professionals, contract and things like that, before approve and validate the professional. So, as I said, Briefy Lake 5 events. The events are hosted on Briefy.ws, and for example, you send email to the creative. So, that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Any questions in the room? No. What was, from your side, the most challenging part of that project?
I think one of the most challenging parts was to create the workflow solution, and also to create the data models together, like really to define, because we put a lot of logic on the back-end side to make the front ends more simple, and to focus on, to simplify the API in the end. And then we have really a lot of investment on this, define the models. At some point we noticed that our models were not working for what we need. We have to rebuild, to refactor everything. So this was really an important change in the middle, but was really necessary and make after the things working. I didn't mention at all another big challenge we had, because when we joined the company, they had a solution that was a kind of database online to manage their process, and we really have a hard time also migrating this data, because we had to at some point create a new solution and create some small tools to manage some issues we have with this tool, because we could not control what's going on, and things start to just falling apart, and we had to, at least this tool had an integration with also a message system that you could like receive some events from what people did, and you could create business rules to, when this happened, let's check the consistency, let's make sure everything is, and change things, and which was really crazy moment.
I have a question.
Okay.
What are you planning to release as open source? What's the lowest hanging fruit?
I think there is a lot of low-hanging fruits. We have the check style component. We have the sitemap component.
Check style we stole from Plone.
Okay.
The rules are from this.
Okay, but anyway, And I really would like to deliver the API, the Briefy WS, as a easy way to create APIs. I think it's really nice, and the workflow, they both, I think, can, because they work together. And I didn't mention about the Briefy WS. You can create not only the REST endpoints, but you can create also, we have automatic way to expose the versioning information from the model when the model uses versioning, and exposing the way to trigger the workflow transitions in the model. So we just need to also to declare the endpoint, where is the host and which model, and it's simple, the validation if the user has permission or not, if the transition exists or not, things like that.